The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber. So I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at gruns.co. That's code podcast at gruns.co.
And now, an ad from Dad.
All right, save money on car insurance when you bundle home and auto with Progressive. Can I take these off? All right. What is this? This looks good. Wow. That's well made. Where did you get this? I'm talking to you with the hair. Yeah, where did you get this? It's good stuff. That's solid. That's not veneer, that's solid stuff.
Progressive can't save you from becoming your parents, but we can save you money when you bundle home and auto. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
This is your first regular season Russo-Souhan Show in quite a while. He's Michael Russo. He is in Detroit with the Minnesota Wild. I'm Jim Souhan, back home in the Minnesota Broadcasters Association studio, right by Lake Calhoun. This is MNSPN.com, also the Mix Sports Radio Network. You can find all the shows at MNSPN.com or the Mix Sports Radio Facebook page. We're also working on a website and a phone app to make listening even easier. Thanks to Twill in the Dining Galleria, Fixology Repair, third floor of the Mall of America, and CrownBank.com, our longtime sponsors. Michael, first just give me your gut feeling going into the regular season, just what you think about the chances for this team to have a big season again.
Well, I don't see why. I know they've made a lot of changes in the offseason, and to me, I still come down to how does the third pair of and their blue line really function without Scandella. Not that Scandella had a great year by any stretch of the imagination last year, but you're adding two young D in Olsen and Riley that they're putting a lot of faith in this year, and then you have a veteran D in Kyle Quincy that, yes, he had a good camp, at least optically on the ice, but we've got to see how he functions throughout the regular season on his offside, getting regular minutes and things like that. So I think that's what it comes down to. The core of their team returns. Their top two lines are intact. I thought all their young guys really, for the most part, looked good in the offseason. They're of their younger core, the Granlunds, the Niederreiters, the Coyles, the Zuckers. I thought Dumba was okay. And obviously you know what you're getting with the veterans. So it's, to me, the third and fourth lines, are they going to be better than they were last year? I mean, I don't think the fourth line could get worse than it was last year. So that's a big thing. And again, the third pair. And as long as Dubnyk's good, I think the Wild will be good again and make the playoffs, quite frankly. But as all Wild fans know, it's what they do afterwards that I think that they most care about. But in this conference, especially when you see the talent out there that I watched yesterday. The Edmonton Oilers, fabulous. Calgary has a lot of talent on their team in that Pacific Division. You got to think Winnipeg's going to get better, although they better get good goaltending and good defense and things like that. Dallas, Chicago, St. Louis, Nashville, they're not going anywhere. It's not first you got to get in the playoffs, so then you can worry about the rest later.
Is Detroit good?
They weren't very good last year, and they're without a player tonight, and in a holdout situation. But there's still talent on the ice for that team, and guys like Anthony Mantha and Dylan Larkin, and Zenneberg's still rummaging around. I got to think Sheahan's going to have a better year than he did last year. They added a couple pieces in the off season. But it's interesting because you looked at the beginning of the schedule, and even though the Wild play 5 of their first 6 on the road, they're winnable games. And Detroit and Carolina in a normal situation should be very winnable games. But you're going into their buildings not only on home openers in the case of Raleigh and Detroit, but this is the first ever game in Detroit at Little Caesars Arena. So you know that the building is going to be packed. There's going to be ceremonies and all sorts of pregame activity, and they're going to come out, you would think, with some sort of vigor tonight, the Red Wings. So these aren't two easy games to start the season by any stretch, and Carolina in Raleigh always plays the Wild well. I don't remember the last time the Wild played a good game there. They might eke out a win like a couple years ago. I think Dubnyk went down there and stole a victory. But man, the Wild usually play like crap down there. And I've got to think that I think that Carolina is going to be one of the most improved teams in the league this year. I just really look at their young kids, at the way that they played in the second part of toward the. I know it does always seem like the Hurricanes play well once they're eliminated from the playoffs. That's been actually their MO forever. But man, they look good down the stretch last year. They have a lot of young quality guys, and Lindholm and Aho and the Slavin kid and Hannafin and Victor Rask. They're on the rise.
What is going on with Parise at this point? Is there any new news? And what's your gut feeling about what kind of season he might have if he's starting the season not even playing?
Well, my gut is that it's going to be, he's not going to. I think he's going to have issues all year long. I really do. That's just the way I feel. I cannot imagine that he's confident right now, and that I know that this is in the back of his mind. I will say, I talked with him for a couple minutes the other day, just shooting the breeze. He's not really allowed to talk on the record right now. That's a policy the Wild have. They don't allow their injured guys to talk until they practice. But I shot the breeze with him, and he's confident that he's going to be able to practice Monday and play soon after that. And maybe the home opener will be pushing it, but you get 4 days off, then then they play in Chicago, the home opener, and then they have another 5 days off. Do you start him on the road in Winnipeg and Calgary? Quite maybe, but more than likely, maybe they at least try to give him the Saturday game at home. I still think that would be pushing it, but that'd be 4 practices next week. And if they thought that he was going to, that 4 practices, actually 3 practices last week would have gotten him into the home opener, the season opener. Maybe 4 next week would get him into the home opener. But I think there's going to be something that he's going to monitor, have to monitor not only now but the rest of his career. I mean, clearly, he's I think it's a flare up of his herniated disc, and that stuff doesn't go away. And there's a lot of people all angry that he didn't have surgery a couple years ago. Nobody knows if that would have helped. I mean, that's why he didn't have surgery. There's no guarantees with that. I was talking to somebody the other day that was a baseball player that had herniated disc surgery, and he wound up herniated again, and his career ended. This is just a tricky thing, and to go and do some sort of evasive thing that's going to offer no guarantees. That was the decision by the doctors, the team, and him at the time. Nobody can guarantee that, 1, he would have been able to play all last year if he had the back surgery, and 2, that it would have fixed the ultimate problem. I don't think you need to be a doctor to know that how difficult back surgeries are, and how there's no guarantees with that.
Yeah, I've researched back surgeries myself because I've had back injuries and problems in the past, and back surgeries are kind of a coin flip. You might not ever have pain again, or you might be going back in for the same surgery a year later. They do not necessarily solve anything. For me, and for a lot of people I know, you find like the right chiropractor or the right treatment program. But that's for someone who wants to just walk around carrying a backpack like me. It's not when you're a hockey player and you're going to go to the front of the net and get cross-check in the back 85 times a game. It's a little bit different challenge.
Yeah, exactly. And and he's not going to be able to change the way that he plays too.
No.
What concerns me is when we watch him is how he's going to adjust his game, not from the punishment standpoint, but maybe compensate defensively. He had a bad habit the last couple of years of curling and all sorts of things where, just look at frankly, just look at the winning goal last year for the St. Louis Blues. The Wild were all over them in Game 5 of the playoffs in overtime. And then, Charlie misses the net, and then all of a sudden Parise turns the puck over, and boom, momentum switches, and the Wild wind up losing that game about a minute and a half later, and I think it was a turnover on the power play. And he's had that tendency for a while, and I think it is because he's so, gun-shy at times to take needless hits. that he's sometimes careless with the puck, and that was a big problem. You know, it wasn't just that he scored 19 goals last year. I think defensively he really, really struggled at times.
No, good point. What's going on with Winnik, and how did this deal get done?
Well, I mean, the deal got done because Chuck Fletcher just said, "Look, we have no choice. We are less than 866 to the cap. We're not willing to go closer to 200 because then they're going to get the benefit of a potential invocation of this Rule 50.10E at some point here, probably early in the season." And so he just had to suck it up, and I know that it probably is laughable for most people to say, suck in your pride to take $660,000, but that's what he had to do. He took a huge haircut, and he had to decide in his own mind, do I take the risk of waiting a week or two and hoping that somebody's going to come at me with like $1 million contract, or do I just take essentially the league minimum to play where I know that the coach loves me and that he'll have a fit? So now it's up to him. I mean, he's got to be good here. They need him to the one game I saw him play in Kansas City, I didn't think he was very good. I just think that Bruce loves him, and he kind of won that battle. There is a reason why Daniel Winnik has been on now 8 teams in 10 years. So try to say that this guy is some savior is definitely I think miscalculated. There was a reason why he was unsigned. I know in his own mind he thinks it's nuts. I wrote that story the other day, and so now it's they got him done, and again it was to me the delay was all Winnik. He just had to say, all right, you know what, I'll just do it. I'll do it if I want to be on that charter. I want to make sure I have a job this year, and then if he has a good year, he can try to reestablish himself either here or elsewhere. And
what should people expect out of his game?
Hardworking, fourth line, doesn't score a lot. Definitely limited offensively. He's gone through stretches where he has gotten points in short spurts, but he's definitely I think a stereotypical fourth liner. He considers himself one of the best penalty killers in the game. Definitely the numbers definitely show that. But as I said, I thought in Kansas City, the one goal was his fault by Tarasenko. So that's the thing. If you're going to get 8-9 minutes a game on the fourth line, he's going to have to be really good on the PK, because again, to me the Wild had enough penalty killers, but I think that early in the season, the way that there's been this crackdown with flashes and the way the Wild seemingly didn't adjust all throughout the preseason, I think that Chuck Fletcher and Bruce Boudreau felt it was important to have another penalty killer in here in case they suffer injuries.
Thanks to Twill in the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com, Twill on Instagram, my favorite clothing shop over in, as I said, in the Edina Galleria, easy in, easy out. There's usually a game on the TV as well.
Hi, I'm Stacy Souhan. I love Twill, Scott Dayton's shop in the Edina Galleria. Twill takes the stress out of shopping by offering updated traditional fashion. I know that if Jim goes in there shopping alone, I will like what he buys, whether it's pajamas, flannel shirts, or suits. I plan to recommend Twill to my daughter when she has to buy wedding party gifts and attire. Twill in the Edina Galleria will bring your fashion game to a championship level.
All right, Michael, let's veer off sports briefly. We'll get back to a lot of Twitter questions and my questions about the Wild and the NHL. You and I have both spent a lot of time in Vegas. You much more than I. You've spent a lot. You had there a lot. My wife and I tend to get out there for a brief stint once every year or so. What was it like for you to see all that unfold?
Well, I mean, it's just heartbreaking. One of the first things, I thought about is there's about a half mile, I guess it would be west of where the incident happened. There's kind of it used to be a Callaway golf club. I think they changed the brand name. It's this 9-hole course, but it's also just this awesome driving range that you kind of shoot right into the runway of McCarran Airport. And so I go there all the time, just to go. Not to play golf, but to go on the driving range. And so every time I go there, I pass this kind of parking lot field where this incident took place. And I always wonder, I'm like, what do they ever do in that thing? Because, it's always like I've always just assumed maybe they don't build a hotel there because it's so close to the airport and they're not allowed for some regulations. And it's kind of right next to the where all those helicopters take off to take you on Grand Canyon and Hoover Dam tours and things like that. And, it's funny. I mean, so that little parking lot, even though it's a nothing type of thing, you always notice it when you go back to the strip, when you go back to your hotel. And then the other thing I thought about is the amount of concerts I've seen at Mandalay Bay, actually on the property of Mandalay Bay. I mean, if this guy was on the other side of the hotel, he could have shot right into what they call, I think, the Mandalay Beach there, which is where they have outdoor concerts. I've seen a lot of concerts there, and it's just a heartbreaking thing. I just cannot imagine, the amount of concerts that we all go to, where you just think you're safe, and you're just realizing lately with what happened in Paris and what happened here is that there's no way to, security-wise, if something's going to happen, there's just no way to bulletproof that, for lack of a better term. I mean, how could anybody have stopped this unless somehow, it was real preemptive and they figured this guy out going up with 10 different suitcases or the housekeepers saw something or what. I mean, it's just amazing to me that you could be so deranged and have such a lack of empathy toward human life that you can do something like this. And it just again shows the mental illness in this world, because obviously there was a lot of evil in this guy. And it's just, I don't know, it's just awful. And just, again, it almost reinforces the fact that, sometimes you just, you could think you're safe and your life can be taken at any point.
And I'm not going to cheer anybody up with this transition, but, you and I are big music fans. We both go to a lot of concerts. My wife had not really been somebody who liked the classic rock world. And, since we've been together, we've gone out and we've seen Elton John, John Fogerty, Springsteen, the Stones, we see McCartney, Billy Joel. And the one guy I had not seen that I always really wanted to see was Tom Petty. And what a sad passing.
Yeah, he was. I was a big fan of his. I went to school in Florida, in Gainesville, where he was from, and so obviously Tom Petty. There was such a source of pride in that city, and I still remember when I was 16 years old. I used to do this Channel 5, the NBC station, down in West Palm Beach. I used to do this Sunday night high school rap show, half-hour rap show with guy named Anthony Pittman, and then eventually Lisa Matejcek, and a couple other of their talents that they had down there. And at the end of my first ever TV show that I'd ever done, that wasn't like cable access, like in high school, like calling basketball games or football games or something. The closing credits was "Running Down a Dream," and I just have always been that. For some reason, every time I hear that song, I think of, kind of my early sports writing days and how much I loved that song, because it was just kind of the closing credits of the first start. In fact, I think I still have the VHS tape from that appearance. And so I've just been a Tom Petty fan my whole life. Used to go to summer camp up in Georgia, and I still remember driving down the highway. I was listening to Tom Petty. And the guy, it's just sad. It was a bad week, I would say. Another one of my... A friend of mine passed away, Dave Strader. Luckily I got to speak to him a couple weeks before he passed. Just an incredibly graceful, classy, wonderful person that I've known for 2 decades. He actually started with the Adirondack. He started in the minors, but he wound up working for the Detroit Red Wings. And really, and this is when I knew that it was coming, that his life was coming to an end here, is that about a month ago they asked him if he would call on NBC Sports Network tonight, the first ever game in Little Caesars Arena between the Wild and the Red Wings. They just thought it was fitting that if he had called it, since he got to start with the Red Wings, and he basically said, look, I'm not going to make it there. I'm not going to be able to, and even before that, he's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame next month, and he made it clear to me recent phone call that he wasn't going to be at his Hall of Fame induction. So it's just awful, that a guy can be taken from us that early. I remember, he was diagnosed right after the Wild faced the Dallas Stars. Remember, he was the Dallas Stars announcer at the end, and he was. And I had him on when I was filling in on The Fan to preview that series, the Dallas Minnesota series 2 years ago. And there was just no cure for this. He went through some unbelievable rare type of treatments that just didn't work. Just a really good person was taken from us yet again. Cancer, absolutely, as we all know, just sucks.
I don't have a good transition for going from life and death to back to hockey, but just to just to lighten the mood here, just tell me how excited you are for another hockey season, because one of the cool things about you and the other people we have on this network is y'all love what you do and you love the sport that you cover. What is your feeling as you enter yet another season?
Well, I'm just excited. It's been a long month and a half for me, starting August 1st, and this, kind of courtship to this new job at the Athletic, and then, really the last month putting the pedal to the metal and grinding out a ton of stories. And now I'm just, it's been a lot of training camp type stories. Now I'm just excited to just kind of get some rhythm under me, figure out how I'm going to write on game days. Even just now I'm sitting there and I'm like, because technically you don't have to write a notebook anymore. Do I write a, game day blog today, which I am. I've decided I'm going to do. If you've noticed on the site, a lot of the new writers, their big thing is to write 4 or 5 really good quality stories a week. But if you notice mine, I'm treating it like a beat writer, and I'm just grinding out and getting a bunch of slugs up on the website and trying to write really good pieces in addition to that. But because the other thing is we've gotten, it's crazy. We've gotten almost 8,000 subscribers, or a little more than 8,000 subscribers in Minnesota already. But I'm well aware. We've been for the last 2 weeks trying to hire a full-time guy that is really wrestling with the decision. And because it's a lot of freelancers on the site, I do feel like I owe it to the people that have subscribed to make sure that they know that this is what they're that they're getting quality content, and that it's just like I did at the Star Tribune, only really frankly better, where I can write better stories. So I'm just really excited that now I'll actually get to cover games. I've always told you I love this job to cover the hockey games, not for the writing about Mikey Riley getting on the third pair like I'm just doing, like I'm sitting here right now. That's not the fun of the job. It's actually going to the arena. Tonight will be the 43rd hockey arena that I've actually covered an NHL game in, which maybe 44th if you want to include the Finland trip that I took. So that's pretty neat. I figured out all the. I was thinking of maybe like a couple hours before the game putting up a thing of like maybe my top 10 and worst 10 arenas that I've covered games in, since this is be number 43 tonight.
Thanks to John Hedges and Fixology Repair. Fixologyrepair.com, located 3rd floor of the Mall of America, up by Nordstrom's. Michael and I have both been by the shop. They also just got some Ferrari watches, and I think Michael Russo needs a Ferrari watch.
There are some things in life that you just can't live without. Now, whether it's a special piece of jewelry, a watch, or even your smartphone, you want it in working condition. At Fixology Repair, we are committed to restoring your pieces so that everything works or fits the way it ought to. Watch servicing, chain repair, and broken screen replacements are just a few of the services that we offer at Mall of America. Please visit us at fixologyrepair.com or at fixologymn on Twitter to learn more. Mention this ad and get a 10% discount on our services.
What is the Wild's cap situation now that they've signed Winnik?
Their situation is dire. They're within 200 of the cap. So what this means is if the Wild, because they're not putting Parise on long-term injured reserve, it can be retroactive, by the way. But right now, they are not going to commit that he's going to miss 10 games in 24 days. So because of that, they have no way to accrue cap space unless next week, and it would just be, a couple thousand a day, they decide to send Eriksson Ek and maybe Riley to the minors just to temporarily a couple days to create cap space. I will say that Bruce Boudreau would despise that. Unless the Wild are going to get Ryan Carter or Ryan Malone to practice, they're in a situation. Can we pause for a second?
Sure.
Okay. Sorry. Can you edit that together?
Just start up with in that situation, I think was the phrase, and go from there.
Yep. I'm trying to remember, what was I saying? I'll just say it again. Yeah, if the Wild sent Riley and Eriksson Ek to the minors, Bruce Boudreau would hate that, because this is a situation where all of a sudden you have 3 days of practice and you're undermanned in practice. So unless you're going to get a Ryan Carter or a Ryan Malone to come up and fill bodies in practice, which still is not a great alternative when you want to practice the guys that are going to play in the potential game in Chicago or the home opener against Columbus. But there is that scenario where you could maybe accrue space. So to get back to your original question, basically because the Wild don't have that way to really create a full salary on their roster right now. If in the next little bit they have a short-term injury, so say like a groin strain, where you don't know if you could put a guy on injured reserve for a week, or long-term injured reserve, let's put it that way, or you get a sickness or the mumps like the Wild always seem to have. The way it's going to work is the Wild would have to play short one game to invoke this emergency 50.10E. Look it up in the CBA if you want to. Google it. And what that allows is that then the Wild would be able to recall players from the minors that make less than $750,000 without accounting toward the cap. So that's essentially the way the rule would work. So in other words, let's just say tonight somebody pulls a hamstring, but it's not an injury that's going to keep them out 10 games in 24 days where you put them on long term to create cap space. The Wild conceivably in Raleigh could play a man short and then be in a position where they'd be able to call up say a Zach Mitchell and have it not count versus the cap. But right now the Wild don't have the ability. They do not have the ability to call up one single player, anybody on their Iowa roster, without going over the cap.
Wow, that's frightening.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Should we blame the general manager for this, or is it just inevitable?
It depends. I mean, when you pay guys like Kyle Quincy $125. Although again, the Kyle Quincy's replacement would be $800 or something.
Mm-hmm.
But every $100,000, $200,000 count. And Foligno I think was more expensive than they thought. Until Kuznetsov. I mean, I will say that there's no way that going into this summer that they thought that Granlund and Niederreiter would cost them $11 million. There's just no way. But all of a sudden, Kuznetsov gets that huge contract, and everybody's bar was set. And then they had to make a decision. All right, if we're not trading Granlund or Niederreiter, this is the market now. That's part of the whole scenario here.
Do you have any preseason picks you want to share with us now that the season is underway?
I just think that Edmonton and Toronto are going to be very exciting and make the biggest improvements of anybody in the league. I mean, Edmonton looked like a team that was really on the verge of being a cup contender last year. And McDavid, again, just absolutely sensational last night. Gets the hat trick. His second goal, he looked like he was shot out of a rocket. Draisaitl's absolutely sensational. They just, as long as they're getting great goaltending from Cam Talbot and better, and quality blue line play, I mean, that team's awesome. And I just think Toronto is ready to explode. I mean, Mike Babcock has been telling his players all summer long that don't come here to just make the playoffs. We're going to go win a cup. And while that might sound to a lot of people like he's being overly optimistic, you look at the talent on that team with guys like Matthews and Marner and Nylander and just you add Patrick Marleau and you got a blue line with guys like Morgan Riley and Jake Gardner and players like that. I mean, that is a fast, young, exciting team, and they were buzzing at times last night. So I just think those are going to be the teams to make the big rise and be true contenders this year. But I love Tampa in the East. I still love Pittsburgh in the East. I'll be interested to see how Washington plays this year after, again, another playoff failure. Boston at times, you look at some of the young talents that they've accrued there, they look like they can be pretty good. And as I said before, I do think that Carolina and New Jersey are going to be two of the more improved teams in the Eastern Conference. In the West, I still think Winnipeg blows itself up like it always does every year. I mean, you look last night, and they just never, I don't know what it is, if it's coaching or what, but they don't ever get better defensively. If you thought Steve Mason was going to come in there and be the savior as a goaltender, that's been their issue the last couple of years, is defense and goaltending. And again, last night, Steve Mason in his Jets debut gives up 5 goals and has to be pulled for Connor Hellebuyck. So I still look at Winnipeg as having offensively the talent to make the playoffs, but I just think that they always find a way to blow itself up. Colorado to me is still a pretender. So then it comes down to Dallas, St. Louis, Nashville, Chicago, and Minnesota. And if you assume that that at least 4 teams in the Pacific are going to make the playoffs between San Jose, LA, Anaheim, Calgary, and Edmonton, and a Vancouver team that should be a little improved, then only 4 teams at a maximum can make the playoffs in the Central. So one of those 5 that I just mentioned might not make the playoffs, and So it's important for Wild to accrue a bunch of points. Early in the season, optically, Jim, it's going to look tough because they have to play, in the standings because they don't play a lot of games. But then they're going to have to get themselves on a good run here, and I do think that they have the ability.
If you'd like to advertise with us, you can reach Scott Yell, SCOTTYELLE @gmail.com. We've had a third-party audit turn up some massive numbers for ad impressions around the state, and we probably are a little easier on the pocketbook than some of the traditional radio stations that probably aren't reaching as many people. So send Scott an email if you'd like to host a show or sponsor a show or advertise with us. And thanks to our longest-running sponsors, Crown Bank, crown-bank.com, a Minnesota company with locations in Minneapolis and Edina.
Your banking relationship should match your lifestyle. And if your lifestyle is to live well, you want Crown Bank. You want a bank and a banker who will give you what you want and what you need without a hassle. Crown Bank is responsive. From ordering checks to making you a loan, they build a relationship with you that will help you get what you want so that you can live well. Crown Bank. It's a lifestyle choice and the place to do business. Member FDIC.
All right, let's get to some Twitter questions because we have 8 million of them. Let's see. The first one, Mr. Russo. I've got to find a good one here. From Jared.
8 million bad ones?
Yeah, from Jared Mealy. I hope let me just issue a blanket apology for the entire season on all the names I'm going to mispronounce. I'm not going to get them all right, just the way it is. From Jared, name a team that will surprise us, good or bad, this season. I know you kind of went through a preview, but is there one team that fits in that category?
I don't know. There's something about Carolina I like this year. But good or bad, I think it's going to be the same teams there. I do think Chicago takes a little step back. St. Louis looked pretty good last night until the end of the game when they gave up a couple goals to allow Pittsburgh to get to overtime, but they wound up winning. But I do think that St. Louis, they're pretty devastated by injuries right now, but that was a huge win that they had last night in overtime. But no, I mean, I just think that New Jersey and Carolina will be improved in the East. I think the Islanders are going to have a lot of distractions with John Tavares and the fact that he's entering the last year of his contract, and I just think 100% leaving there. So I definitely think that that's a team that could potentially take a step back, even though they've got a lot of talent on that team.
Interesting. From Serious Mashup, is Boudreau more than a regular season coach?
I mean, yeah, I think so. I think that he gets himself worked up with stress. I think that was clear during the first round last year when after Game 1 he said he was already a basket case. But
after Game 1 he said he was a basket case, and then between games in St. Louis he yelled at I think both of us for asking really simple questions.
Yeah. I think I think a lot of times he tries to be a little self-deprecating, but I think a lot of times there's self-deprecating. There's some truth to that too. And if he was like that in front of us, what was he like back there? But again, he can't make Charlie Coyle hit that net. I mean, and that's what it comes down to. There's still only so much you can do. And to me, the Wild gave up 10 goals against the Blues. That should be a winnable series, and their guys did not come through. From
Dan Henney, do you have any feelings on NBC effectively blacking out the NHL during the Olympics? Did the NHL make a mistake?
You know what? I haven't read up on that, so I don't really want to comment.
Okay, we'll get to that.
And I don't think the NHL made a mistake.
All right. From Tom Maloney, overall thoughts on the Central heading into the year, where the Wild will land, and why are people hyping the Jets? You already kind of talked about the Jets.
Yeah, no, exactly. I feel like I've mentioned that. Dallas, I'll be interested. They always seem to, every time Hitchcock has a first year, the team usually does really well, and on paper, they made a lot of quality changes, adding guys like Radulov and Method, and obviously Ben Bishop, although he did not look good against the Wild the other night, and Marty Hansel. I don't know. I'm not a Hansel fan.
We remember that, and you were right about that. From Matt Mannix, the fact that Duchesne hasn't moved yet is crazy. Do you think there's a certain team out there that has a deal in place for him that will go through once the season starts, and they're able to put a okay?
Yeah, no, I just think that. I think there's a difference of opinion between what Colorado thinks his value is and what the NHL does. I do think that Matt Duchene has a bad reputation for whatever reason out there with a lot of teams out there where they are not sure about his character. I think we all see how good he is as a player. And then the other thing is, everybody's at the cap. So, what I think now Joe Sakic's going to have to wait for is let's see how they start the season. Let's see how other teams start the season. Maybe a team suffers a major injury. Maybe a team with incredible expectations gets off to a terrible start. But right now, I just don't think anything's imminent with Matt Duchene. To me, if it did not happen at the draft and it did not happen yet over the summer, I think that, again, with his situation of not being a UFA or anything like that, from a Colorado point of view, you just wait. There's no urgency to move him. And frankly, they had 48 points last year. So it's like, even if you say it's going to be a distraction all year long or you've got a malcontent in the room, it's not like he can ruin already a horrendous situation anyway in that team.
From Aaron Berger, old friend, Dubnik's finger healed up, and will he be able to help with diapers for his expected son, number 3?
Yeah, his finger was healed up a couple of years ago. I remember that happened against Dallas.
Okay. From MJ, Mike, have you attended a Lynx game since you moved to Minnesota? I'll let you answer that one first.
No, I have not. No, I don't think I've never been to a Lynx game.
Okay, I know.
I did watch the fourth quarter of last night's game, and Cheryl Reeves is just cool as a cucumber.
Yeah, that entire group of people is just. I
just loved her post-game interview. She's just not. There's no political correctness to her.
I know.
I just love, she's announcing to the entire crowd how they lured them back, and then,
Yes.
And
it was great stuff.
Out their heart, essentially.
Yeah, it was great stuff. And you and I had Lindsay Whalen on our program once back in the day. And the other question from MJ: will the Minnesota Wild ever host a championship parade?
I assume so. I just hope I'm alive to see it.
From Jason Piant, with the experiment to split 20 and 46 scrapped, do you think the Wild may have to find a way to bring more defensive stability to the blue line?
Well, I don't know how you do that. They've got no cap space, and they've already traded Alex Tuck, and so again, to bring another defenseman in here, you're probably going to have to trade a prospect. They are banking on Dumba being better, on Brodin being better, and on Olsen or Riley with Quincy being a good pair. There's a reason why, as Derek Peterson, our analytics guy, wrote on our website, The Athletic, today. There's a reason clearly why Bruce tried to split up Suter and Spurgeon, and either Bruce didn't think it was going well or Suter didn't think it was going well. I know my opinion.
The latter?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They went the entire training camp with it, and then all of a sudden, just to go into the season, it's back to one. When there was no Let's be honest again. Suter and Dumba played 2 games together because Suter only played 2 exhibition games.
Right.
So it's not like there was this huge, sample size of how they were going to play together. I just think that, I just think sometimes, a couple of guys on the team have stronger pulls than other guys on the team.
It's almost like if you have a 13-year contract worth $100 million, you kind of get to throw your weight around.
Yep.
From Michael Bain, is Winnik a one-way or a two-way?
One way.
And who will get scratched when Parise comes back?
Probably Winnik or Stewart, or maybe Ennis. I don't know. I don't think that Bruce is the biggest fan of Ennis. I got that impression even during the summer. There was a reason why I was writing from the very beginning that Ennis was going to be on the fourth line, and everybody went crazy when I was put that on the blog at the Star Tribune, like I was nuts. But it was educated.
Yeah.
It was an educated opinion. I just got the impression that if Parise was in the lineup, that Ennis would be on the fourth line, and here we are with Parise not in the lineup and Ennis still on the fourth line.
From Mary O'Neill, our old friend, what are your thoughts on the third and fourth lines going into tonight's opener? Have they developed any chemistry? She's happy for Winnik.
I don't know. Cullen, to me, Cullen, Winnik, and Ennis, we haven't seen enough of them yet. I'm not a big fan of the Stewart, Eriksson, Foligno line. I just, I don't know. Well, I think Stewart or is going to wind up having to be back on the fourth line. That's just my opinion.
And Greg Spanier asked a simpler question: why Stewart on the third line?
I think it's partially to do with Bruce's not a lot of love for Ennis right now.
Interesting. From Derek Felska, excuse me, how long do you predict the NHL's crackdown on slashing will last? Will it reach the All-Star break or not?
I think it will. I think it's up to the players to adapt. I watched the games last night, and that Kevin LeBlanc guy, who's an awesome player for San Jose, he was taking penalty after penalty, and it was all what probably would it not have been called last year, that to me should always be called. I mean, his slashes were egregious slashes across the hand when he was beat. And that's what they're trying to get rid of, is that, when they had the crackdown on obstruction, on the hooking and the holding, the players adjusted by then giving little love taps to the hands. And usually it's because it's the same reason they reacted to that was the same reason why they hooked back in the day, is they did it when they were beat. And if you want speed in the game, you got to stop guys that are from behind slashing guys on the hands. I'm perfectly fine with this. The little chintzy ones, I get that it's obnoxious, but look, if it is up to me, it's up to the players to adjust. I mean, this is everybody wants to blame the refs on this, and I agree that if there's little crappy calls, those are the ones that you got to be ticked off, and it's incumbent on the refs to be in proper positions to make these calls. But every one of the penalties I saw last night were under these reinforced rules, slashing minors, and so the players have to stop it.
A few more minutes on the show. Thanks to Michael for calling in from Detroit on a busy day. Again, this is the Minnesota Sports Podcast Network at MNSPN.com and the Mixed Sports Radio Network. Check that out at the Mixed Sports Radio Facebook page as we build our website and every other option for listening to the shows. Thanks to our longtime sponsors, Twill and the Edina Galleria, FixologyRepair.com, and Crown Bank. And if you'd like to sponsor our show or host a show, you can reach Scott Yell, SCOTTYELLE @gmail.com. From Ben Wilkie, is the Wild's sparse schedule to start the year a blessing in disguise, and that it helps with cap space accrual?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think so. And also it gives Parise more time to get himself potentially healthy.
Right. From Muskie Hunter, I don't want to know what that means. Is Leopold's change in tone, saying it's time to win now, at all a warning for Fletcher?
I don't think so. I think he always talks like that before the season.
From our friend John Hedges from FixologyRepair.com. Is Winnik simply taking a pay cut, or might there be some kind of a handshake deal where we'll make it up to you next year?
No, there are no such things as handshake deals.
I didn't think so. From Von Prashinsky.
I mean, frankly, the Wild then could have just given him a 2-year deal,
right.
and upped his salary to get them to a cap situation that would make sense. But no, I don't think so. I think it's a 1 year at $660 because I think the Wild know that there are red flags with him.
From Von Prashinsky, couldn't an argument be made that Cunnin outplayed Eck in preseason, thus Eck should go down to Iowa to get big minutes?
I mean, yeah, I guess so. But they're going with the guy that one is a natural center, and two has played professionally for a couple of years. And so look, they're gonna these guys are gonna potentially switch. I mean, I cannot imagine that this is such a shock to people that Cunnin is in the minors. He's 19 years old. I've been saying all summer that Eriksson Ek was going to make this team. So I just don't get why this is such a shock. Chuck Fletcher has made it very clear he likes the Jake Gensel path of last year. So we might see Eriksson Ek down in the minors. We might see Cunnin up here. We might see Cunnin. They're going to switch back and forth. They're going to get each time down there and each time up here. But unfortunately, there's also no way to have them both on the team together financially.
Michael, give me a final thought, and we'll let you get back to work.
Nothing. Just kind of.
You never have a final thought for us, Michael. You never have a final thought.
Yeah, I know. I think I did the last podcast.
Okay.
That'll have to suffice for this one. I'm just excited to get over to this new arena and check it out. I hear the press box location is high up, so that and back. So might get a little nosebleed up there. But I'm excited to get going and just kind of see where this team is at. I know we always the one guy that I'm just again interested to watch, but I feel like I have this every time the preseason ends is Charlie Coyle. I mean, guy looked like an absolute superstar in camp, but if every game was the preseason, he'd be an absolute stud as well. There always seems to be these times during the year where he takes unbelievable steps back and goes to these long droughts. But, every time you come out of camp, you're so optimistic about him because he looks so good. One guy I definitely think needs to be better is Nino. I didn't think he had a great camp. He had a good game one, but his other preseason games I didn't think were very good. And, again, Zucker, there's a lot of expectations on these guys this year.
He's Michael Russo. Thanks to him and all of my co-hosts across the network. This is the Minnesota Sports Podcast Network, MNSPN.com, and the Fix Sports Radio Network. You can find all the shows at the Mix Sports Radio Facebook page. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to Michael again next week. And Michael, enjoy the casinos.
Yep, thanks.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. And I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world won't forgive a winner.
It's your last chance to get gifts before the holiday, and right now at Old Navy, everything's up to 75% off with gifts from just $1, $2, $3, and $4. Buy online, pick up in store for free in 2 hours with extended store hours too. Get up to 75% off everything at Old Navy and OldNavy.com now. Valid 12/18 to 12/24, excludes gift cards, today only, 2-day only deals, register lane items, jewelry, and Zip Zap stuff gifting bins. Orders must be placed before 4 p.m. for same-day pickup, subject to availability and delays. Additional terms apply.
Let's say you just bought a house. Bad news is, you're one step closer to becoming your parents. You'll proudly mow the lawn. Ask if anybody noticed you mowed the lawn. Tell people to stay off the lawn. Compare it to your neighbor's lawn. And complain about having to mow the lawn again. Good news is, it's easy to bundle home and auto through Progressive and save on your car insurance, which, of course, will go right into the lawn. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.